What's up, YouTube? I'm back with another video. And before we get started, if you get the like button, subscribe, and share, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. And so I wanted to put this little video out because I heard the whole commotion. I did say a few videos ago when I talked about Invincible, the whole hype dying down, and me being disinterested with the after the break of the whole show. I saw a lot of talk, and even my coworkers and friends said they bring in a very infamous character into the show for the first time, right? And so, for those who don't know, Anissa, she is a very infamous character in the Invincible lore because she basically she does something to the main character. I don't want to say it. Well, I'm gonna say it, but I don't want to like say the word because YouTube doesn't like the word. Trigger warning. Also, she essays Mark, right? And so basically she's just been introduced into the show, and people are already going off the rails with this character being introduced, and that's basically is what bringing up my main point is. I think they should avoid doing that moment, and they should rewrite it. Basically, they should do something totally different. Like, they have rewritten characters like Amber from the book compared to the TV show, and how like she's kind of a drastically different character. Like, at first in the book she's kind of like I wouldn't say bimbo, but you know, her reaction to find out Mark is invincible is different than in the show, and they go through the whole character arc again, and it kind of led to the same thing of them being broken up so Mark can basically get with Adam and Eve. So there is no reason why they shouldn't rewrite Anissa's moment with Mark and still have it reach the same point as they did in the comic book. Because the main reason why I want them to rewrite this thing is not because of the moment itself, because you can have these deep, serious topics in shows. I'm not saying, oh my god, I don't want to see this at all, because there is a conversation to have about males also being assaulted and things like that, and the whole trauma and the experience that Mark goes through when he doesn't trust Adam, Eve, and all that stuff like that, and the whole, you know, the whole pathway he went through and stuff like that. But there is something about the community and like people online being straight weirdos, and we all know that. You've been online long enough. Viewers here probably, you know, I'm just assuming, but you know, y'all been on the internet long enough. The internet is not mature enough to have these kind of conversations. In the last show, I remember tackling this conversation. I forgot what show it was. I think it was on HBO Max, but it was basically showing the perspective of like when a woman gets assaulted compared to a man. And I'm not gonna sit here and have a double standards about, oh, it's not blah blah blah. I'm not gonna have that dialogue, but it is a difference as people's reaction to one thing compared to the other. And this one gave the perfect example. When she was being introduced, for those who've read the book, she did basically verbatim what happened in the show, where she shows up, she threatens to kill a significant other of Mark, apologize for it, gives a whole statement how like he should join the Viltrumites and like let them take over the earth because it helps the planet. He says no, gets his ass beat, she flies away. For those who haven't read the comic, they immediately ran to Twitter and was like, oh my god, they chickened out. Oh my god, why didn't I was waiting for this moment. Oh my god, I hate it here. Example is this.
Wasn't that moment supposed to happen on this episode?
Yeah, they chickened out.
And so it starts this whole dialogue of basically losers online talking about, oh my god, I wish this happened to me, or Mark is a loser, and this and that, like bad conversations are being had. And I think it's just best if they avoid the whole headache to begin with, which is rewriting and changing what happens, because it's quickly going to turn into a discussion about how I wish this happened to me, even though this is a very serious conversation that needs to be had. And I don't know how. I believe they can write around it better, or write this moment better, but it's just a headache that I think is best if it was avoided. And what I said earlier is I do have faith in them because of what they did with Amber. I mean, of course, we don't like Amber as much because of the whole thing with, we was supporting her until it got to the point where she was mad at Mark for saving lives instead of being with her. That's when pretty much everyone turned their tide on, okay, I don't like Amber and I don't like her as a character. But they did kind of fix that in season 2, where like she's a lot more understanding, which led to them breaking up, kind of like it also in the comics, which is different, like a different path to the same point, like I said earlier. Another moment in Invincible I think they will fix, which is similar to the Anissa thing, is the whole Mark talking to Adam Eve's dad, and he goes on this whole entire speech of how like, oh, you need to be the first person that when you get with a girl to be there first, basically. Like, I wouldn't be with Adam Eve's mom if she wasn't a virgin when I first met her. It's like stuff like that. That whole like 4 panels of him going on and on about it's something about taking someone's V card and stuff like that. And Mark is like, what? It's like that. It's like that. We don't need that. That whole thing can be cut and we don't need it. Okay. We know that Adam Eve's dad is unbearable. I can't stand him. Okay. In the show, they do a great job of showing how horrible he is of a father. We do not need this whole thing because the think pieces and discussion is so unwarranted. It's just be best to avoid it. It's kind of like, you know, when you have that family member, you have that friend that every time you try to give them a suggestion, they start freaking out and get all defensive, or like you can't tell them certain things, or it feels like you're walking on eggshells. It's best to just avoid it. It's best to just cut contact and avoid the whole situation. I think that's what they should do with some of these moments. Of course, their whole thing is being like kind of a mix of shock value and the whole thing like that, where it's like, oh, superheroes in a more, wouldn't say realistic, but like that you see death, you see gore, you see all these things. But there's some moments that can be cut that I think they should consider cutting, because it kind of adds a unnecessary discussion about topics that I don't think the audience, not the audience, but I don't think the internet basically is ready to handle. I don't think they're mature enough. And you could probably, I know people are saying, well, the Anissa thing, it kind of leads to a character being introduced to the show, but I will always stand by, if you can't ride around something and get to the same destination, you're not a good writer, or you're not as good of a writer as you should. If you want something to happen while riding around something else and you just can't do it without messing it up, then you really need to hire better writers. Then it's kind of like, I don't like bringing up Star Wars, but it's kind of like Star Wars The Last Jedi. If people like, let's say J.J. Abrams, he obviously didn't like The Last Jedi, but if Rise of Skywalker is the best thing he could have done to continue the story after The Last Jedi, he should have hired better writers, or he should have given to someone who was better at writing the story than him, because what we got there was not good. Same thing here. If what we get, let's say in season 4, is instead of, you know, Anissa doing that to Mark, she does it and she broadcasts to the world. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, what are we doing here? Okay, there is, I know there are ways to write around these things, and I don't get paid the big bucks to figure that out. That's up to them. But it just is gonna lead to like unwarranted publicity, unwanted think pieces, idiots just talking about stuff they obviously didn't read, and I think it should just all be avoided. But those are my thoughts. Let me know down below what y'all think. Do y'all think this moment is pivotal to the plot of Invincible? Do you think it has to be in there? Or do you think they should remove it entirely? Should they remove it? Should they just write around it? Or should they just keep it as is? I'll be in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share. And I'm out. Peace.